Want to welcome in Jeff Erickson from RotoWire.com, your one-stop shop for your fantasy sports. He's got the beautiful RotoWire backdrop going on in the house, the office. I love that. And boy, look at what you are wearing right now. You are sporting some Augusta royalty with that Masters pullover. I like it.
Yeah. I got to go to Augusta once. I got lucky. My buddy puts in for the lottery every year. They limit the amount of patrons that can come. Patrons, not spectators, not fans, but patrons. He won out. He got 4 tickets for the last practice round and par 3 contest day. It was the Wednesday before the year Tiger won, and we walked the grounds. You can bring a camera, but you couldn't bring a phone on the grounds. You go through their official store. People buy stuff in their official store and resell it online, but that's the only way otherwise that you can get their merch. Like, of course, I'm going to be a total tourist and buy up stuff. So I bought a pullover, a shirt, a few other things as well.
Do they sell the caddy cap that they wear without the year or Masters, just the logo, the way the caddies wear? Do you know?
I do not know that.
Okay, so you didn't buy one, is what you're telling me. You didn't get one.
No, I did not. I bought a hat. I did buy a hat, just a normal green golf hat, but
that's okay. You dropped it, $400. That's a good chunk of change on some merch when you're out there in Augusta. By the way,
I wish I bought more. I really wish because you can't have enough.
Rank that experience for you when you compare it to all the other sports bucket list trips you've taken in your lifetime as you've been, running RotoWire.com all these years. Where do you put the Masters in Augusta?
Well, it wasn't a tournament round. I mean, in a way, it might be better because of the camera, but and just a little bit more. Everyone's a little bit more relaxed, but I don't know. I don't know how to compare versus a live round. Below the Rose Bowl, below Northwestern making the NCAA tournament. I've never been to a World Series game. I've never been to a Super Bowl though. So those two I think would probably go higher. But it's high. It's top 5.
Have you ever been to a championship sporting event in any capacity?
An actual championship game? No, I don't think so. Trying to think if I had been to, no, I don't think I've been to any championship round game, which is, I work in sports and I haven't, which is, how lame is that?
Well, no, it's not lame. It's hard. Look, let's be honest. Getting access as media from RotoWire is probably a little tougher than if you covered it for a daily paper or site or things like that. So I understand. I get that. But then that's when you have somebody calling that extra favor for you and say, hey, Jeff, I got an extra ticket for tonight. Have you ever had that offer where you could have dropped, $1,500, $2,000 and last minute just made a trip up for a major sporting event?
Oh, I could have gone to a Dodger World Series game for that probably. Biggest failing is every year I go to First Pitch Arizona for a fantasy baseball it's a fantasy baseball conference during the Arizona Fall League. Yeah. And it used to be end of October, early November. The year the Diamondbacks and the Yankees played in the World Series, I could have plunked down and just got like standing room, and I didn't. And yeah, that was probably a mistake. Not my biggest coulda, shoulda, woulda in life. Biggest one was when I was in law school, I had a chance to spend the summer in Rome taking a couple classes. And I was like, I can't afford that. I don't want to take out another loan. What's another loan when you got an opportunity like that, when you're unencumbered by anything else in life? That was a missed opportunity, but so it goes.
So I've only been to one World Series in my lifetime, and it was that 2001 Diamondbacks Yankees World Series that you're talking about. Because we were a Diamondbacks affiliate, and they offered affiliates a chance to buy 2 World Series tickets at face value. So we plucked down, it was like $175, $180 a piece, and we sat about 17 rows from the field down the right field line.
Oh, that's amazing.
It was awesome. It was awesome. So I'm telling you. So yes, that's one of the, but you know what? Augusta National is on my sports bucket list. It has to be. It should be on everybody's sports bucket list, right?
Yeah, of course. There might be some hipster like, Augusta's overrated sort of mentality. It's not. It really is as immaculate as you may seem it is. And the patron experience is amazing too. Whether it's just how all the employees treat you, to the cost of, refreshments, just getting around. You get right in and out of all the concessions. They have it's an overwhelming number of people working in them, just the restrooms, whatever. They're in immaculate shape. I mean, they take care of you if you go there.
It sounds like fun. I love it. We're talking right now with Jeff Erickson from RotoWire.com. All right, so injuries, a storyline early on in baseball as teams are, reporting for spring training. Although there's still some major players that are stuck because of visa issues and haven't even had a chance to get into Arizona or Florida yet. But as far as I could see, the injuries right now, the Royce Lewis torn ACL is a devastating one. It's bad. And then you look at players like Yordan Alvarez, who didn't even play last year and hasn't even been cleared yet for on-field work after that terrific rookie season in 2019 with the Astros. So interesting storylines early, since we'll have games when we chat again this time next week.
Yeah, that's right. And I would say that's on the Yordan Alvarez story. We had Stefania Bell on from ESPN talking on our XM show earlier today. And she says that's part of their plan. Like, they kind of have a slow graduated rate for him. Doesn't make me feel great. I'm actually a little bit behind ADP on him to begin with, so I'm not inclined to boost him up. His teammate Alex Bregman is the one I'm more concerned about. He missed about 18 games, I think, last year with a hamstring injury. Maybe not all those are attributable to that, but he's not on the field right now either because of hamstring issues. And lingering muscle problems are something that really bothers me. It reinforces that I don't think he's going to run this year, and it does. I just don't think I want to be there when that for that price on him. It's a debate I've had with my co-host Chris Liss that I don't want to draft him right now. Not at that price. I would require him going like the fifth round or so before I take him.
Do you own him in any of your existing leagues that you've already drafted?
I do not.
Okay.
I don't. I've only done three new drafts this year, but in my keeper leagues, I don't have him anywhere this year.
Okay. Well, you're right. And that is interesting. I always wonder, can players actually suffer chronic hamstring injuries throughout their career? Because I've heard of blisters for pitchers that they can't shake and can't get rid of, especially as they change the ball every year or two. But I've never really heard of a player that just can't seem to ever beat just a hamstring that keeps going on them.
I hear about it a lot. Guys that run frequently, especially, muscle-bound guys tend to have more muscle injuries too. Josh Donaldson's had the calf problem multiple times in his career. I think Aaron Judge actually has had some muscle injuries before in the past too, if I recall correctly. Stanton too, of course, has had tons of injuries. Not all of those are that, and sometimes it's unlucky. Stanton got plunked and he got hurt one time. But the point remains, that's one of those things I see a lot of lingering issues with.
I'm happy you mentioned the Yankees, because this is supposed to be the year that Clint Frazier gets his chance, has the left field job, and ultimately can really be the next great outfielder for fantasy owners. And then you find out that Brett Gardner's coming back again. And even if you give Frazier the job to start the season, he's going to have to look over his shoulder. There's Gardner just waiting for an opportunity, whether it's an injury or Frazier starting to slump. And you kind of say to yourself, the Yankees just don't have any faith in Frazier, do they? Because if they really did, they wouldn't just go ahead and bring in another a favorite for forever, but somebody that obviously can have a big effect on Frazier's fantasy production in Gardner.
And moreover, he's on the better side of a platoon if it ends up being a platoon of some sorts. I still think Frazier's the guy, and I drafted him at a draft last week, and I wasn't happy to see that Gardner news either. But keep in mind, Aaron Hicks has been hurt a lot, right? Aaron Judge has been hurt a lot. Stanton's been hurt a lot over his career. I think having one more bat is not a bad thing for them. And it's a guy they know. It's a guy they know fits. The devil, there's a lot of that going on. Plus, he was cheap. He was like, I think 1.18 million plus another like $1 million in incentives. So it costs them very little to go get Brett Gardner, a guy that they know. And if he's got something left, he'll help the team. It may not always come at the expense of Frazier. It does cost Frazier perhaps some at bats, and there is that small risk that he just gets displaced. But I wouldn't really run away from Frazier. In fact, maybe take advantage that lowers his price here on draft day.
Jeff Erickson with us from RotoWire.com. We talk a little fantasy baseball. All right, Jeff, right after our segment last week, the news broke that the Padres had agreed to that massive 14-year, $340 million extension with Fernando Tatis Jr. It's funny because it really is a team-friendly deal when you think about the average annual value, although it's a staggering amount of money given to a 21-year-old. Where do you guys have right now from a fantasy standpoint Tatis? And, Is he somebody that can be a top shortstop for the next decade plus in fantasy playing out there with the Padres?
As long as he stays healthy, doesn't like bulk up too much, I would think so. Yeah. He's either 1, 2, or 3, depending on who you talk to. I mean, I think the lowest I've ever seen him drop is 6, but that speaks more to this season's uncertainty than it does anything else, just because there are a lot of quality options to start your draft off with. But, he's my number 1.
Who is, if you had to put your top 3 or top 4 together, who would it be?
I'd go Tatis, Acuna, maybe Garrett Cole 3, maybe Soto 3. Depends. If Juan Soto steals 20 bases, though, he's probably first.
Do you think that from a shortstop standpoint, you're going to see Tatis number 1 for years to come?
Yeah. I mean, it could be Wander Franco 2 years from now too, though. Who knows? I mean,
That's true.
We've seen enough hype about Wander Franco. Now we got to see the actual article, hopefully sometime this season, and hopefully early part of this season rather than later too. We're in a great era for shortstops, though, Steve. I mean, there are so many good shortstops. If you look at any ADPs, any recent drafts, you'll see 6 shortstops drafted in the first 2 rounds. You'll see 10 in the first 3 or 4. I mean, it's great. You got Tatis, you've got Trey Turner. You've got Corey Seager is in the 3rd round. He was MVP level production. Xander Bogaerts. There's a ton of good shortstops. Bo Bichette, I love Bo Bichette, but that's the point. You have so many good options at that position. Don't be afraid to get 2. By the way, fill up your middle early if you're getting some value because people don't want to have 2 shortstops.
You didn't even mention Francisco Lindor and Trevor Story, and those are first-round guys for some leagues, depending on where you have them. So.
And those guys are interesting because Lindor has already been traded to a lesser ballpark but a better lineup. Trevor Story is in a walk year. He may not be a Colorado Rocky anymore, which I think you have to discount him just a little bit. We've seen with Arenado that risk is real and present. I know the Rockies say they're not rebuilding, but you judge them by their actions, not their words. They are rebuilding. Go ahead. Yeah, I think they can't afford to let him walk for free. So you may see him get dealt at the trade deadline unless they come up with some big mega extension, which they're not likely to do because they already had, they had to trade Arenado. They didn't have to. They chose to trade Arenado.
So who would slot into the shortstop spot for the Rockies if they ever were, that's on the roster now, if they ever were to get rid of Story?
Yikes. I'd say Brendan Rodgers, but Rodgers is probably more likely to play 2nd or 3rd. Rodgers is a key guy this year. He's 3rd overall draft pick when he got taken by the Rockies. Big time prospect, has been hurt last year. He slumped when he did get called up, but the Rockies, of course, in their typical fashion, mismanaged him when he got called up. Called him up and then didn't play him every day. I mean, that's so Rocky. You have a top prospect, let him play, or you keep him in the minors. One of the two. You don't do that. You don't diddle around playing time with guys like that.
All right. Speaking of diddling around with playing time, you also shouldn't be doing that to player development. Let's talk about what broke with the Mariners over the last couple of days. And really between Jared Kelenic speaking out right now against the way he's been controlled by the team, to the disparaging remarks of the outgoing GM and what happened with Julio Rodriguez and that conversation. I mean, it's just been a bad week if you're a Mariners baseball fan with all the bad PR they're getting.
It has, but it ultimately could end up being good in a way. And the thing is, they were guilty of saying out loud what everybody practices in MLB. He got fired for saying the truth. I mean, in terms of manipulating service time, there was other terrible things he said about, horribly misguided comments about players' ability to speak English and talking about that stuff was just dumb. But in terms of managing service time, this has been a time-honored tradition, whether it's Chris Bryant or George Springer, Vlad Guerrero Jr. You go down the line, there's very few teams that do it. We talked about Tatis. Kudos to the Padres. They called him up in time for opening day. They didn't play that game. They could have waited 3 weeks. It was a surprise when they said he made the team, despite how awesome he looked, just because that's the normal play. I remember Alex with the Marlins doing that a couple times too, that there are teams that see the long run of like, okay, instead of like trying to save money, it's better for the team if we're trying to win right now and calling up our best players. And you generate goodwill. You get guys like Tatis to sign a 14-year deal. That's why you do that. Instead, they got Kelenic idling for no particular reason last year because he wouldn't take their low ball offer. And it was a low ball offer. Make no mistake. It was not a market value offer. Not like the White Sox gave to Luis Robert or to the year before to Eloy Jimenez.
Here's the hard part I have about last season, okay? we really don't know for sure how everybody looked at the alternate sites, just depending on reports you hear from people. So if you've never played AAA baseball before, and I don't think Kellenic did prior to the 2019 or 2020 season, does he really deserve a chance to be in the big leagues and be playing if he maybe didn't look as good in the alternate site as other people would be led to believe? We just don't know, because if you have a AAA season and you have a minor league season, you have legitimate numbers you can base an argument on. But last season, all bets were off. Most of the minor leaguers didn't even play, and those that were in the alternate site, you're playing against each other. It's hard to really gauge if somebody is truly ready for big league competition.
Fair, but even in the summer camp, training camp run up to the start of the sprint season, Kellenic was hitting bombs. There were contemporaneous reports saying, "Hey, this guy's ready now. He's a special prospect. He's ready to go." Secondly, there is still development happening at these alternate training campsites. It's not like he's just sitting on the couch eating bonbons. Instead he was hitting bombs. I mean, it's okay, that was terrible. Sorry.
That was great. But, congratulations. I was waiting for that one. So very nice.
Yeah. But he's ready, Steve. And usually you can at least come up with some cover. But he said the quiet thing out loud. That was the problem for the Mariners, is that he admitted what every team is doing. And you look at who they played in the outfield. Jose Marmoleos was out there. They had guys that were backup infielders playing the outfield once Haniger got hurt, other guys got hurt.
Good point.
They had they had Jake Fraley out there. They didn't have outfielders out there. They played Ty France in the outfield. The fact is, at one point they were a game out of the last wild card spot. They had a chance to get there. They didn't put their best foot forward. They purposely did not do that. Whether that's justifiable or not, in terms of development, it's hard to justify it. The only way to justify it is finances.
You can't justify it when you're playing for a postseason spot. You can't do it. If you've been able to work your magic as far along as they were, and you've got a guy waiting in the wings that could be a difference maker, especially for the postseason, how do you not play him and bring him up? Exactly.
And this is a huge sticking point in baseball right now. So many teams are not doing their best. The Reds, they had all these shortstops out there in the free agent market. You don't know the content of their offers to the shortstops who are out there. The fact is, they didn't get one. They didn't make a trade for one. They didn't sign any of these guys. They traded away Raisel Iglesias. They didn't get Trevor Bauer. I don't even know if they even made a competitive offer for Trevor Bauer. They let Archie Bradley go for free. They non-tendered him because he made $6.5 million. All in the name of saying they'd have more flexibility to try to improve their team elsewhere. They didn't do it. They didn't do anything to improve elsewhere. All they did was sign, NRIs and small deals. They did not make any real effort to try to improve their team. The Chicago Cubs traded away Yu Darvish for 4 long-haul prospects. Maybe good prospects, very good prospects, but the fact is they did nothing to try to improve this year. And then you get into the morass of the Pirates and all, some of these other teams who, okay, yeah, the Pirates are unlikely to win, but the Pirates have gone 3 years without trying to win. Mm-hmm. I understand why players are upset.
I hear you. All right, let's promo what's coming up right now at rotowire.com. You got tons of baseball content up and a lot of content in general. Basketball with the NBA All-Star break right around the corner. You've got also football with all the free agent news and rumors that are happening. A lot of stuff at RotoWire right now.
Yeah, we got dynasty football content. The NBA just announced their second half schedule, so we have stuff covering that. This All-Star weekend, whatever, I don't care about that. But, I never care about All-Star games. That's one thing that's I give myself the break there. But yeah, we're bursting at the seams with content. We would love for you to check it out. You can check it out at rotowire.com/free. All of our content, projections, podcasts, you name it, we're all there. rotowire.com/free, get you a free 10-day trial. No credit cards required. Just want a valid email address. Hopefully you want to subscribe after the fact.
Terrific stuff. Enjoy the conversation as always. Look forward to next Wednesday when we bring you back on, Jeff.
Fun time, Steve. Thanks a lot.